of you guys read the chapter on the difference between panicking and choking? It's basically reasons for people to fail.
No.
All right. Let me give you this late. Well, this requires two things. I was like hoping that we'd read that because it was like just the perfect example of it. There's this recent YouTube that's been going around, and it's called Doc Ellis and the LSD No-No.
I love it.
Have you seen that?
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's basically about a pitcher.
I watched it like 7 times the day it came out.
Yeah, it's this amazing story of a pitcher who basically pitched a no-hitter while under the influence of LSD and some other mind-altering substances. And so I think I marked a few pages. So anyway, like to summarize in like 2 sentences, I think the thesis of that chapter, The Art of Failure, is that choking is about thinking too much and panic is about thinking too little. Choking is about a loss of instinct, and panic is reversion to instinct. They look the same, but they're worlds apart. But he goes on to various other anecdotes about women losing tennis matches when they're, every sign points to them just being, or golf matches where, the person should win by every expectation and then suddenly just falls apart at the end. And specifically, the problem in their case isn't, unlike panicking, where they can't think of what to do. They're basically overthinking it. And then instead of, relying on all the muscle memory that they've built up, they're becoming a novice again where, like us, certainly me, if I go to play golf, I'm constantly thinking about where my body's at in every part of the swing and how I'm going to approach it, as opposed to, real golfers just
That's kind of what sex is like
just
for
go
me.
up and do it. You're telling yourself, I don't even want to get there. You're like,
Where does this go?
It's like entirely. I'm working all the levers from inside my brain.
what did Dan Quinn say about the violin again? Oh shit, did he say you use this hand or you use the right hand? You guys ever see Dan Quinn teaching the violin?
What is that?
Dan Quinn, he's like this nut job on YouTube who's clearly schizophrenic and he's on lithium, but he's convinced that stevia, the artificial, not artificial, the sugar substitute, that when mixed 50-50 in water and when you skim the soapy substance off the top that's produced and then you just drink nothing but that, you replace all liquid in your diet with this stevia water that he calls pure H2O or cold fusion, that you'll basically solve global warming. You can bring back the dead. You turn yourself into a muscle man. But it's really weird because he looks like the unfit, fit guy from Family Guy. Like, kind of like what was that guy? Like the old 50s, like stars before like the Schwarzenegger era of like rip, definition and mass. There were guys like John Wayne that like by today's standards, they'd be like the unfit, fit guy. But anyway,
Kirk Douglas.
He does that, but he always, in addition to his rants about stevia and stuff, he just randomly goes into this thing about this sexual technique he has called the violin, and that he can produce dozens of orgasms in a woman a minute, and he calls it their birthright, Maitreya, the birthright. But anyway, yeah. That long explanation for the joke was that when you're trying to hit it, you start thinking about what Dan Quinn told you, and getting all fucking confused.
I see. No. I'm usually just thinking about food.
But so back to the chapter, the perfect thing is the whole time I'm reading it, I was thinking about Doc Ellis's no-no. It was like so clear. It's like, okay, the guy was just like so messed up that he was like so inhibited from feeling like performance anxiety or from worrying about what's the crowd going to think? What are people watching going to think? He didn't even know when you listen to it. He didn't even know where the fuck he was. Someone comes up and he's like, "You're pitching a no-no," and he's like, "Oh shit, what's that?" Like he was so fucked up.
I can tell you that by far the best game of pinball I ever played in my life, I was on psychedelics.
People have all of these stories about that. Like there are a lot of weird stories about people like winning 10 games of ping pong in a row, or like playing amazing games of pinball.
Let's think of video games too.
We talked about this before, like back in the Brodeo days. I remember one time talking about how like various levels of inebriation can lend a hand in certain kinds of games. Like I remember being obsessed with Geometry Wars and playing that basically like for 20 minutes a day for 3 or 4 months, which is not something I do with games very often. And so I got to see what it was like to sort of try to get high scores in that game on every possible like level of inebriation, and there was some sort of sweet spot where I was always better.
Yeah.
And I think that's just really weird.
Dude, that goes for like for fighting games, especially for me, because the movesets, there's like such intricate movesets, and there's so much to memorize, and there's so many different things that you can do that, like, when I'm on PCP, I don't think of those. I just, no, when you're sober, you get into the thing, and it's very easy to feel yourself choking. You're like, I'm sitting here, and I'm like thinking, okay, how do I do this move? And it doesn't matter, whereas in another state, you're just like on top of the world, you're just talking shit. You're not going to beat me. And you don't even know what you're doing. And you play like phenomenally well, and people can't even believe like how fucking effectively you're playing.
I've actually noticed that some of the best scores I'll ever get in Bejeweled Blitz, the 1 minute lightning fast version of Bejeweled, is when I'm on the phone or doing something else where my mind is not fully engaged in the game.
Yeah, totally. Same.
Then I'll do better. Somehow I'm not fully, I'm not uptight about what every next move is going to be. I'm just doing it.
I've also noticed things like that, like if you turn the sound off in a game, sometimes like sound serves as usually as like something to ratchet up the tension, and if I turn the sound down, sometimes I'll relax more. Yeah,
I did that a couple times in Modern Warfare 2. I turned down the sound at particular points that were frustrating me, and then I got through them.
You just in those situations, I think if you just tell yourself like, I'm not fully engaged in this, I don't need to prove myself, because you're on the phone with someone, or it's like, or you're in your case, Robert, maybe you're playing a game and and your wife starts talking to you, and you make it clear to everyone you're playing the game with that you're only going to be half there, and suddenly you look and you realize like, holy shit, you're on some kind of crazy tear, because you've basically done the same thing.
You took the pressure off yourself.
Yeah, which actually goes into that whole idea of the pressure on and taking it off. Is this part of that essay where he talks to Claude Steele, a psychologist at Stanford University. He talks about what he calls stereotype threat, and he describes this as, the whole idea is trying to understand the disparity between test scores of black students and white students. And the stereotype threat is called, it says, when black students are put into a situation where they are directly confronted with a stereotype about their group, in this case one having to do with intelligence, the resulting pressure causes their performance to suffer.
This is in Gladwell, right?
Yeah. This is in that same essay you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet. So he interviews them, and so
I'm high right now.
Are,
I'm just joking. Sorry.
Yeah.
What was that?
I was like, I'm high right now, and just because I was like, oh, you're talking about Gladwell. I'm totally joking. And all you guys went like dead silent, and I was like, oh shit, is that guy mad because I cut him off, and they're mad because I'm like, I don't even know. Okay, go on.
I don't even know where to. I don't even.
We know you're not, because otherwise you'd be better at podcasting right now.
Right, go on. So yeah, we're talking about the effect of the expectations different students had.
Yeah, exactly. And so what they, part of what they're doing in this research is trying to understand the phenomena more, and then, devise strategies that, students can use to take the pressure off themselves when they're in these situations. And what it reminded me of was when I was studying for the SATs, the way I prepared was twofold. I took a test a day for 5 days before the test, a sample test. And then I'd been reading this book called, I think it was called Cracking the SAT. And what they told you to do is sort of like treat it as a game. And they taught you all these techniques, like, wherever you can, like, rather than trying to get the right answer, plug in the examples there and see which one works. If you can't get, if you look at a question and you don't know the answer, or it's not coming to you, try to eliminate the obviously wrong answers, because if you can get it down to 50-50, it's actually worth it statistically to guess rather than leave it blank because of how it's scored.